Okay, we're back, and now it's time to start arranging this into a full track. Alright, so we've got this little loop, and it's 8 bars long. So let's just listen to it and feel out kind of where we think it should go next. Most likely I'm just going to be duplicating it and then making a small change. So let's listen. Okay, so I've just duplicated it, and I've picked up on one thing that is going to make this duplication not work very well, and see if you can figure that out. Okay, so if you didn't figure it out, you'll see I have this padlock enabled, and that means it locked the automation and didn't copy it over when I duplicated it. And if you remember, we have some automation on the lead. Let's just go and find that over here. Timescale is automated. And here's another note. I recommend anytime you have automation to hit this little plus sign to add it to a separate lane. That way, if I start clicking on other parameters, I don't lose that automation. It doesn't disappear from the screen. It's always visible on the screen. Okay, so we can either just duplicate that across like that using Control D, or I should have ideally, when I had done the copy, I should have had that padlock off, and then I could have copied the automation over again. Okay, so now we want some changes to this. So I'm thinking, instead of adding something new, why don't we remove something from this section, like the 909 open hi-hat. Let's listen to this. Okay, I like that. I think now we can duplicate that again. How long has this been so far? 30 seconds. So ideally we want probably a minute here again. Again, there's no rules, but just I notice usually my drop sections are about a minute long. And sometimes a minute and a half for longer, more like clubby tracks. Right, so I'm going to take this section, make sure padlock's off, and I'm going to duplicate it again twice. And I'm thinking, like it sounds like this lead should go up higher, like maybe an octave higher. Let's see how that sounds. I'm going to select all of these notes and just pitch them up one semitone using shift and up. Not one semitone, one octave. Okay, it works, except it kind of feels like something's missing now. It's like lost some of its power. And that's because we're missing out on all these little mid-range frequencies that we had before. So one of the solutions would be to either just duplicate this, so make a copy of all of these notes and pitch those down an octave. So we basically are running 2 octaves of the same set of notes like this. So if I just highlight them all and hit Control C and Control V, then shift and down, now we have a copy of all the notes in 2 different octaves, and it sounds like this. Oops, I did it on the wrong clip. Should do it on this one. Control C, Control V, shift down. Okay. So you listen to how it sounds from here to there. like how that sounds. So that's one way to do things using your MIDI notes, but you can also use the second oscillator and simply pitch that oscillator up 1 octave, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's take this and just pitch it back down to where it was. And here we just turn on second oscillator and shift that up to saw wave. And now we're going to take this and use the semi here, semitones, and we're just going to go up 12. The nice thing about this is now we can control the volume of this oscillator independently to this one. So we listen to this. I'll just play this in solo and slowly blend this in. We can choose exactly how loud we want it. Or we could even have a different waveform on the second one. And we don't have the option to do that if we're just using MIDI. I'm going to kind of blend it between a square and a saw. Let's hear how that sounds. So I like the sound of that, but we need to blend that in. Otherwise it's going to, we need to automate this. Otherwise it's going to be there all the time. So this is the volume of that oscillator, and what we want is for this to happen. Okay, so we just need to take that lane and kind of automate it. Just blend it in over there. That works. And remember, let's click that plus sign so we can always see that automation. And now I'm thinking maybe we can have a little bit more of a change, a variation. Let's add a couple more notes before this last one over here. Like let's just see the rhythm of that. Yeah, so I'm hearing like a We could either play the same note here or maybe a note below that. Let's hear this. Maybe it was better like that. Sounds quite good. We can experiment, maybe pitch that up an octave. I quite like that. We can also start automating other things, like this time we can maybe make it a bit longer, so we can make all these values go up a bit higher. There's an easy way to do all of that. You can highlight all of them, and then you'll see these little squares appear in this box. And we can use that to raise the level of everything simultaneously. Or we can use one of the corner ones to just lift it, make it go up over time a bit more, while maintaining all these little subtle changes. That's probably the best option. And then when it reaches the end, when it reaches the end, we're getting a lot more intensity out of it, but it's almost too intense, I think. It gets really busy and noisy. So let's just calm that down a little bit. So this value is up at like 23%. This one's up at 18%, so it's still a bit higher than the previous repetition. so we've basically got the first drop sort of down. We can always go back and add some stuff when we listen to the whole track in context, but I always like to move quickly through the arrangement so I don't get lost in the details. Alright, so I'm just opening up this loop brace so that we can keep on working on this. I think from here let's go into our breakdown. And with a track like this, I think for the breakdown we kind of want to do something a little more epic sounding. You know, our last song was like super chilled out and playful and happy. This one we want a bit more of a, I don't know, spine-tingling moment in the breakdown. It's not going to be too complex though. Obviously we're still in the beginning stages here. We're going to keep it as simple as possible. Alright, let's go. So now I'm just going to play it and listen. I think we could use this drone and turn it more into like a chord progression. That would be nice. So I'm just going to expand this out and I'm going to consolidate it, Control J. So now we have 4 notes, and maybe what we can do is make a chord progression. So if you remember the chord progression we did before, we made triads, which are 3-note chords, and they're done by placing a note, skipping a note, placing a note, skipping a note, and then placing a note. So see if you can make an A minor chord. Alright, so if you manage to do the A minor chord, well done. This is what it looks like. A, C, and then E. And if you are confused of how I just dragged and copied those, remember you can just hold Control on your keyboard, click and drag, and it'll copy notes. Okay, this is what the A minor chord sounds like. Sounds very nice actually. Alright, let's use that A minor, and the next chord, I'm thinking we should go down. Let's maybe go down to F. And F is going to be not a minor chord because we're going to be not placing a note there, we're going to be placing a note there, and if you count the gaps here, that's a 3-note gap, and remember minor chords are a 2-note gap. And if we've made a minor chord there, this would be out of key. This is what out of key sounds like. Yeah, it just sounds wrong. It could work like in the context maybe of like a horror movie or something, but here we're going not really for the horror effect, we're going for more the euphoric effect. Okay, so we're staying in key, we're using all the white notes. Remember, A minor is all the white notes. And so here's our second chord, and this is what it's going to sound like. I think we can maybe just move between these chords. That usually works quite nicely. Moving just between the A minor and the F major. So it's kind of like this minor major movement, and it becomes quite hypnotic. So let's start adding some more elements to this chord progression. Maybe we can also add an octave below that. So let's just copy all these bottom notes, the bass notes, highlighting them, Control C, Control V, and copying them down. Okay, let's see what our melody sounds like with these chords, because up until now we've had no chords. We've just been staying on one note with our bass line. Maybe this will sound really nice. So I'll just copy that across. Okay, I think it sounds really nice, but I don't want this lead to sound exactly the same as here. Things can get old very quickly, so let's change the sound design. We're going to automate this lead a bit more. I'm thinking maybe we can shift the waveforms down to more like a sine wave, a really clean waveform. So let's just try that. We're going to click on this, which is the waveform selector, and we're going to automate that until it goes down to that sine wave. So just down to 0%. We're going to add that into a new lane. We're going to go to the second oscillator, and we're also going to click on that and just push that down to our sine wave. Let's hear how that sounds. Okay, I like that, but I think what I want is to make this a bit more like atmospheric. So maybe we have now a nice long delay on it, decay on the reverb. Let's actually switch off that reverb over here, and we're going to use a different reverb. Maybe we can use the send reverb that we used before. That would be cool. Let's try that. So I'm just going to turn that up. It's too much, less. Yeah, I think it's down, it's too low. Let's try pitching this all up an octave. And maybe let's automate this delay off. I don't like how the delay sounds with these sine waves. But I feel like now it's missing something. Yeah, let's change the sound design also a little bit. I'm thinking like a softer sound design instead of this clickiness. Let's go into this amp envelope, and maybe we can just fade it in a bit more. So if we extend this up to like, I don't know, maybe 18 milliseconds. Maybe that'll sound nice with a different kind of delay on it. Let's introduce a new delay. What about echo? Echo is another Ableton delay. And remember, we only want this to turn on in this breakdown, so we're going to automate it. Let's put it at like 40%, and then we're just going to automate that in. So now we've got like lots of automations that are happening, and I actually forgot to add a lane for the attack, so I'm going to add that in there. So this is echo, and echo actually has some reverb built into it. You can add reverb to the delays. I think that adds it directly to the delay. Let's hear how that sounds. Let's add some feedback. I think maybe what we can do is add another octave above that. So we've got just the high, and then the high and the low over there. That sounds cool. Okay, so let's duplicate that again. I think for this breakdown I want it to probably be about that long. And I want to keep on building on the epicness. So here we're going to have some fun. So we've got this drone, I've just copied that across. And now we're going to start adding some more elements. We're going to basically keep enhancing this harmony of these chords. So let's copy these chords down. I'm holding Control and dragging that down. Now we're going to add another element. Let's add wavetable. And we're going to use a saw wave here. We're going to make basically just, we're going to filter these saw waves in slowly over time. So I want a sound like that, but I want it to be more sustained. So we're going to bring the sustain up to maximum. We're going to have a bit of a softer attack. And now over the course of this entire progression, we're going to just filter this in slowly. Like that. And another thing I want to do is we're going to add more automation. We're going to use unison. Let's put it on classic. Give it 8 voices. And the amount of unison is going to start increasing over here. And then right at the end, I want it to be almost like out of tune. Okay, so we want that to only happen really quickly at the end. So up until now, it's going to be like that. And then right at the end. And that's going to bring us into our next drop. Okay, so that's one element. And I think maybe with this we can also have a little bit of reverb. Let's add reverb. I'm going to have a bit of a longer decay. Let's hear how that sounds. And then I can hear maybe like a big drop over here. Let's we can actually start using markers. I'll introduce you to markers. So here we can add a marker if we just right click and say add locator, marker, whatever you want to call it. And here we can actually just add a name like drop. And we can also label this, add a locator, breakdown. And these are just more like labels for you to keep a more organized project, but also you can use them as like play buttons. So if, for example, I wanted to, let me add another marker here on the drop, first drop, drop 1. If I wanted to hear how it sounds to go from breakdown into drop 1, I could play this, and then right before it hits drop here, I click the play button here and it'll jump to here. Let me show you. that's those. All right, let's design our second drop. We can come and add more detail to the breakdown in a later stage. Let me just open up this brace here. All right, so I'm going to just copy all of this over, and then I'm going to chip away at it. Okay, so I think what might be super effective is to just drop into only the bass line with nothing else but the kick and the bass. The crowd usually loves that. So let's turn that off, and turn that off, and the clap and the snare. And if you don't know how I'm switching those off, I'm just hitting the 0 key on my keyboard. Let's listen to that. Okay, that feels a little underwhelming. Let's work on that a bit. Maybe some effects would be cool for that. Maybe we can use the snare and the clap, because that last snare, remember, that has a big reverb on it. So let's just extend that out and make sure that the automation is still there. It's not being copied over there, so we just want to copy that automation here. Oops. Let's actually remove that clap there and the snare. I only want the clap over here and the snare over here. Okay, I just realized I've done something that I haven't explained before. I have split these clips up. So anytime you have a clip, let me just turn this back on. You can chop out sections of it, and the hotkey for that is Control E. So if I click there, it makes a little cut there for me. Or I can highlight a section and hit Control E, it'll cut out that whole section. And then you can turn off individual sections. Okay, so I'm just going to fill these in again and then just turn off this whole clip. Okay, I think we should at least have some sort of atmosphere in there. Maybe the chords, or just the one chord here, the first chord. Let's copy that across. No, I don't like the sound of that. And also I think that might need sidechain if we use that. What about the drone? Let's bring the drone back in. Might be cool to have the hi-hat in there. Let's listen to that. No. Okay, maybe we need to come up with another element. Because I don't want to just drop back into that lead. It's a bit boring. Maybe we can have an arpeggio or something in there. Let's try out an arpeggio and see if that works. This one might take a little bit of troubleshooting. Okay, so I've made a new MIDI channel, and I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to manually write an arpeggio. But let's use the same patch that we used for our bass line. Or better yet, let's just make a new one, because we really want to like drill home these envelopes so you know how to use them properly. Okay, so I'm going to write wavetable and load that in. And I'm going to make a pattern quick. I'm going to use A minor, A, C, E, and just loop those. going to shape the sound. We're going to make it into a saw wave. And we're going to bring down this amp envelope. You'll see you can actually click and drag these boxes. And let's bring down the frequency. Go into the matrix and map it to envelope 2. And then shape envelope 2. Play with this frequency. And I'm thinking I want each note to land in a different place in the stereo field, like left and right, left and right. And there should be a way to achieve that. Let's have a look around, see if we can achieve that here quickly. I'll tell you if it's possible. I think, yeah, I'm not 100% sure how to do it with this, but we could use an autopan. Autopan's a pretty cool feature. Let's grab autopan. It does exactly what it says. It pans stuff automatically left and right. If you don't know what panning is when you take a sound and you either move it to the left or the right. And so if we use this autopan, we turn up the amount and it moves left and right. But I kind of want it to be pretty quick. I want each note to almost jump around. Let's bring up the rate. And bring down the amount. You can also change the shape to make it more snappy. Maybe a bit of unison would sound nice. Let's listen to that. I prefer it without. Let's try and make it super snappy. And we'll give it a bit of reverb. Again, I'm going to use a really short and small reverb, so bring down the size, bring down the decay. I'm going to turn off all of this stuff, don't really worry about it for now. Bring down the dry wet. Turn it all up. Okay, let's listen to this drop now. It's getting there a bit closer. Let's try a different mood on this. So if we change the notes, maybe we can make it a bit darker, something like moving between these three. Or even up like this. Let's add a little bit of delay to this to bring down the dry wet, ping pong, some feedback. Maybe we can do some sort of a melody where top note moves between here. Just mess around and see what happens. I think I actually quite liked the first one the most, to be honest. Nah, This is nicer. Let's try open up that reverb. And let's also add a bit of sidechain to it. I'm going to copy that from the bass line. Bring down the ratio a bit. One thing that might be cool is adding maybe a ride over the kick drum. It's Control T, and I'm going to go back to my pack here, and we're going to add a ride loop, something like that, where it's just landing on top of the kick. No, I don't like that. Let's remove it. Also play with the bass line and maybe open that up a little bit more. Let's open up the automation on that to like 100 or something. Okay, it's getting there, and now when we move on, I want to just have the hi-hats come in and then the clap and snare over here. So now it'll go. Let's also filter the lead in slowly. So here I'm going to use the frequency and bring it in really slowly. Turn that up. Okay. And now I think what we can do is we can kind of start using these chords. So whatever over here, we use those chords just like they were over here. Same thing, we'll add in these. And now we need our bass notes to match those chords. Let's see how. Sounds cool, but now yeah, we need to make these bass notes match, otherwise we get a horrible sound in the low end. So let's double click on this, and all I've done is highlighted the section, hit Control E, and now it's a unique section, and I can take all of these and pitch them down to F. And duplicate. There's also a lot of low end in these. And so I want to add an EQ, which is only going to be used in the drop section. So we're going to take this EQ and we're going to scoop out some of these low end frequencies. And we're just going to turn that on only for this drop section. And I'm going to copy that and just paste it onto the drone. Now it'll be a bit cleaner. Okay, so that's our second drop. I think that sounds pretty cool. I'm thinking maybe we can do something similar to the last track where we added more like atmospheric stuff. But let's design our own sound this time. So we're going to do a new channel here. I'm going to grab wavetable. And here we're going to use, let's use a sine wave. And we're going to use a little bit of distortion. We haven't used distortion yet. And we also want a nice sustained sound, so it sounds like this. Some release on it maybe. And here we're going to grab saturator. And what distortion does is it will take our waveform and it will basically take this perfect sine wave and turn it more into a square wave. So it'll add harmonics to it, but it's going to do it in a bit more of like a gnarly way. It's going to sound really awesome. So let me just show you what that looks like. So if I have this clean sine wave and I start adding saturation to it, it gets louder, louder, and eventually we start getting additional harmonics in there. Let me just turn this down a bit. And if I keep on adding drive, we get more and more harmonics. And when we start switching between notes, we get a really like distorted sound. I'm sure you know what distortion sounds like. But yeah, maybe not that distorted. I think that's about right. Let's bring up the output again. And what I want to do with this is add some big reverb to it. So we're going to make this like 100% wet. Big reverb. Make the size a little smaller. And let's just turn this down. It's distorting a bit. Let's try adding a second oscillator in there, a saw wave. And maybe we can do some filtering on this. So bring that down. Let's enable envelope 2, go to the matrix. Again, map that to the filter. And here what we're going to do is have a long attack on it. Now this is going to sound really cool in the track, especially on the drop. We're going to add maybe let's add a note right at the beginning. Like an A or something, just over there. See how that sounds. Okay, let's just plan that a little better. So maybe we do like a note there, another note there, another one there, another one there, and we can like loop that again. turn those off. I don't actually like the sound of the sine wave in there. I'm going to shift that up more towards the saw again. Let's turn down the saturation a bit. And maybe we can try 2 different octaves, bring down the semitone of the second one. Clap snares in. And I think we need another one of those big snares, so let's just copy that big snare in there. With this we can add a little bit more like filtering that happens over the entire length of this. So let's grab an auto filter and we're going to filter this down a bit more and then open it up all the way through this. The kick drum maybe for a few beats over there. Okay, that sounds cool. Now we need an outro. Okay, so for the outro, we kind of want it to be more of a DJ mixable outro. So we're going to duplicate all the drums. And here we're going to basically we're going to keep that bass line going. And we're going to go back to that single note bass line. And what else can we do? We can maybe just go back to the single note drone. And the chord over here, we can just stick to the A minor chord and let that ring out all the way through. Like this. And slowly filter that down. Baseline, we can also filter that down over time. could also probably be filtered down a bit. Maybe we can take this and just turn it into a low pass filter, and then drag this frequency and filter that all the way down. And I'm just thinking in terms of little transitions here. Okay, there. Right, let's make a quick intro and then we'll add a few more details to this. So for the intro, we want a kind of DJ intro similar to our outro. In fact, let's just simply copy all of this and place it here. Let's delete wavetable and let's remove our claps and snares. And we're also going to remove this drone. Maybe what we can do is have some white noise that starts this off like all the way through. And that's always great for learning some more sound design. Let's use a new synth here called Operator. An operator lets us use white noise. So in Operator we have all of these which are oscillators. And here you choose the waveforms. And here we've only got one oscillator that we're working with at the moment. See the levels up, the rest of them are turned down. Here we can choose the waveform and just turn it onto white noise. Now if I play that, you just hear noise, but it's got a filter on it. So we can turn off that filter and then we just get plain white noise. Let's use an external filter like the auto filter, which has got a bit more control. And what I want to do is automate that. So it goes from high all the way down, but we want a bit of resonance. This is what resonance sounds like. Higher you go, the more it's going to start whistling. Can get really harsh. And that's probably fine. So let's just make a MIDI clip. And here it's not too important which note you use. Here if I just turn on the earphones you can hear each note. They all sound the same, so you can just pick any note and then draw a long MIDI note. Now if I play this, that's what we get. But we don't want that. Remember we want it to like filter down. So we can do that over time. It's way too loud, so let's turn that down a lot. Okay, and let's add a bit of sidechain to it. Make the sidechain a bit longer. Bring down the ratio to make it not as deep. Another thing I want to do is add some reverb to this. Use reverb. Nice big dry wet. Bring up the decay. And here this reverb, you see it's got this filter which is cutting out all the high end, so let's just turn that off. Right before the reverb, I also want to take out all the rumbly noise at the bottom. So let's just filter that out. Maybe bring in the clap here. to do something else before we bring in this lead. So maybe a little gap here before we go into the drop. So what do we want to do? We want to move this whole drop over to the right. We also want to move everything else so that we can insert a big gap of space to work with over here. And so you could either take all of this and drag it over to the right, which is fine as long as you don't have your automation lock on, because then it wouldn't move your automation. But the easy way to do it, the better way to do it, is to highlight the amount of space you want and just hit Control I. Okay, so now I'm thinking we take out the base of it just by filtering out the low end using an auto filter. So here we can go like this. We're using a high pass filter which sounds like this. Takes out the low end. So here we can start filtering it up. Maybe going up to like 120 hertz or something, and then drop it back down into the drop. We can also, let's just delete that. We don't need that white noise there. Another thing we can do is also remove that low end from the kick, but we're not actually removing the kick itself. Let's take out a bit more from the beginning, like up to 100 hertz, and the same thing on the kicks filter. Now that sounds like this. Now maybe we bring in that drone. And let's start introducing this melody. What we'll do is we'll just play one variation of it and just repeat that maybe like twice like that. Or we can repeat it multiple times but just slowly filter it in. Yeah, let's do that. And let's use even more filtering using this auto filter. So how this will sound is okay, let's hear how that sounds. Another big sweep. One thing we can do to make that sweep sound even nicer is to make it nice and wide. And Operator has this spread knob, which will make it wide. There we go. getting there. Maybe another one of those big sweeps over here would be good. Okay, so we've basically got almost a full track down. There's probably some extra stuff that we can do here. I don't want to spend too much more time on this before we move on to the next track. But yeah, let's do a few more things. Just like in the last track, maybe we can add a bit more ear candy to it. And so I want to use this opportunity to introduce something called resampling. So instead of like the last time we made that little flourish using notes and a new MIDI channel, here we're going to reuse existing elements in the track. So for example, we can take our bass line and just play it in solo. And we can use audio to transform that into another element. This is a bit more of, I would say, an intermediate technique. So pay attention. Here what we're going to do is we're going to make a new audio channel below it, Control T. And we're going to turn on the record button. This is very important. You turn this into resampling. And so now with this soloed, when I hit the record button, anything that we can hear is going to be recorded into an audio file over here. So here we go. Okay, so now we can unsolo that one and solo this one, and now we are we've got this audio. But the cool thing about having this audio is we can manipulate it. We can, for example, use the pitch here to pitch it up. We could speed it up by hitting divide by 2. That's going to make it twice as fast. We can reverse it. Let's hit R. And yeah, we can get really crazy with this. There's so many more things you can get into, like different warp modes, but we're not going to touch that for now. Let's just keep it at this. And I want to kind of use this to make a little bit of an effect. So how about taking this and adding a delay. Maybe making it ping pong and then adding a reverb. Maybe we can pitch it up even higher. Let's go up another 12. So if you hold shift and hit plus, then it'll go up another 12. Let's listen to how that sounds. Maybe I'll put it earlier on in the track. Let's see, after the first drop. Maybe we can put it here. So there we go. We've got us a cool little effect. It fits the track. Didn't have to buy a sample pack for it. And now when you're aware of this, you start to realize, hey, I could use anything in my track to make cool things like that. Let's try it out with the lead. So let's come to this more busy part of the lead maybe. And I'm going to record it to the same exact channel as before, make sure that's armed, that's set to resampling. I'm just going to hit record. Let's do the same thing as before. We're gonna maybe take this bit and reverse it. Let's pitch it up 12. And let's use that like over there. We can even fade it in. We can use our clip fades to do that. So here, if you turn off automation mode and you hover over the box, these little boxes appear here, and you can fade that in. So that's kind of cool. Let's listen to how the drop sounds now. Again, maybe in the section after this, over there, and instead of it doing exactly the same thing, what if we change this number here? Okay, so a little bit of music theory time. In music theory, we have what's known as a fifth, or a perfect fifth, and all it is if we're looking at any note, say we're in A minor and we're looking at the note A. A fifth above that is if we count the notes that exist in the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fourth note above that. And that's also if you just count it up in semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the seventh semitone. And so often on synthesizers, what you'll be doing is you'll be adding like +7 semitones. And that makes it into a perfect fifth. And it's also, guitarists might know that as a power chord. It's basically just a harmonic relationship that sounds, I would describe it as like triumphant, powerful. It usually sounds really good, especially in like darker tracks and even in brighter tracks. And how that sounds, if I let me just open up a wavetable here so you can hear it. Let's use that. So without the fifth, with the fifth, fifth sounds really nice. You might recognize that interval. It's used so much in music. You get fifths typically, and you get thirds. And thirds are either major or minor. In this case, it's a minor third. So all these together make our A minor chord. Remove that C. We don't have an A minor chord anymore. Now we just have a perfect fifth. So why I told you this was, well, I want to make this into a fifth rather than just using octaves. So at the moment, the note we're using, because it's +24, that's just 2 octaves. It's still playing an A. But I wanted to play that E note, this note, because I know it's going to sound good. So we can go down. We can set this to +7. Because I told you, remember, it's 7 semitones if you count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to sound like this. But now it's too low. So let's put that up one more octave. We're going to hold shift and hit the up arrow. So now it's +19. Because 7 + 12 is 19. So we're going up an octave and a fifth basically. We could maybe even go up another one. Another octave. Maybe filter that a bit. Let's use an auto filter. Something like that. And I'm only going to use that filter here. The rest of the time it's going to be open. Let's fill that section now. Okay, now I want to copy these and use them again in this drop. Maybe we can use this one more time at the end here. And just remember that automation. I think that's enough for today, enough for the session. Let's put our quick limiter on the end just so we can push this to its loudest. So those little ear candy things add a lot to the track. Makes it feel really cool. Maybe we can add them into the breakdown, but we don't want to get too bored of them yet. So what about filtering them out in the breakdown so they're like really filtered? So what we can do is we can take this filter lane here and just highlight it all and drag that box down. So that's like... Okay, so some final touches here. I just took a little break and came back and listened and realized I really don't like the sound of this lead. Possibly too much of a square wave in there on that higher octave. So let's just try bringing this slider up here down, and we're just going to take it down from 78% so it's landing on the saw wave. Let me just highlight that whole section, bring that down. Oh, we need to go. That sounds a bit better. Listen again. Actually, a little bit more, the unison sounds good to me. Okay, let's go back into this automation quickly and just fix it over here. Sounds much better. Let me just double check this one. Okay, sounds good. Let's do our final playthrough and see how it turned out. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that turned out quite nicely. Hope you enjoyed that and you managed to follow along nicely. Just as per the last time, I recommend going away and writing 2 or 3 of these sorts of tunes, similar tunes, using all the techniques that you've learned, and really try and drill those into your mind. specifically the envelopes and how they work and how you can modulate your filter with envelopes. And also shaping drum sounds with envelopes. And yeah, then come back and we are going to do something a little more complex and do another track in a different style. All right, see you soon.